Hey, Aaron Fitt, Kendall Rogers coming at you from Omaha. It is Monday before the College World Series finals. Always an interesting vibe once we get to this point in the week. This year, of course, the vibe has been wilder than ever. We're not going to rehash all the craziness of the NC State COVID debacle. If you want to know more about that, please check out Kendall's extremely useful and well laid out story about the timeline of events for NC State last week. The whole thing stinks, but we have to move past that. We've got no choice. It's not Vanderbilt's fault. It's not Mississippi State's fault. They're the last two teams standing, and through no fault of Vanderbilt's, this thing sets up very well for them, Kendall. They didn't have to play a game on Saturday, and now you've got Jack Leiter rested and ready to go here in the opener, I assume. Did they announce that yet? I assume it's going to be Leiter.
Yeah, it's going to be Jack Leiter against Christian McLeod tonight. So I just confirmed that Mississippi State. So that's an interesting matchup. I mean, I think you look, obviously, people are going to assume when you look at Leiter getting full rest, people are going to assume that Vanderbilt has some huge edge. But let's not forget, I mean, this is a guy that, although he's been awesome this year, I mean, he's lost some games. He's had some outings that weren't amazing. So I think if you're Mississippi State, kind of the name of the game against both him and Kamar is always, hey, let's see if we can make these guys throw a lot of pitches. The thing about Jack, though, unlike Kumar, I think he has a little bit better command of that breaking ball. It's a little more difficult to have that approach against him. But, I mean, ultimately, Aaron, the key for me is, like, Christian McLeod needs to have his best outing of the year. He's a guy that coming into the season you and I had high hopes for. He's been very inconsistent. He hasn't been good at Omaha, and he's going to have to be good for them tonight. I think I like Vanderbilt tonight, but, I mean, the thing about Vandy is, like, they haven't played well here at all. Like, they've been incredibly lucky. I mean, they had Brendan Beck, one of the best pitchers in college baseball, throw a pitch to the backstop to win one game. They played against the MASH unit at NC State, and they didn't have to play a second game at NC State. So they have not played well at all here. They're in the finals. So, I mean, I actually feel a little odd picking Vanderbilt with Leiter on the mound. I actually think I'm going to go Mississippi State.
Wow.
I'm flipping my pick right in the middle of my pick. I'm going to go
this guy.
State. I think McLeod steps up. I think he's a guy that we've gone after for being consistent, and I think he puts together a nice outing tonight.
I think you're pandering because there's 25,000 maroon-clad people there.
They know where I'm staying down there.
They know where you're staying, but I don't blame you. No, I mean, Mississippi State, they do have some magic going on, and it kind of makes it tough to bet against them. But, I mean, it's Jack Leiter. It's Jack Leiter. I mean, he was awesome last week, too, even though they lost 1-0. He got beat on one pitch. But other than that, I mean, it was an insane performance. He's so good. He's a top 5 pick. He's a first team All-American. You can find that on our website today. Also, our All-American teams are out. Leiter and Rocker both make the first team. So does Tanner Allen from Mississippi State. You make a good point, and we've been saying it, I think, repeatedly this week. Vanderbilt really hadn't played their best baseball here. So Brendan Beck throws a pitch to the backstop, but Vandy still had to do a couple of things in that inning to get to that point.
Yeah.
I mean, an error helped. That contributed to it, but they got a couple of hits,
Javier Bass had a great at bat.
Yep. And so same thing with Arizona. I mean, they were down in that game, but they still had to get some hits to come back and tie it and win an extra innings. And their bullpen has been outstanding here, really. I mean, Maldonado and Murphy and McIlvain, those guys have been nails. They come into this thing rested. I mean, I just think it sets up really well for Vandy. I agree with you. They haven't played well. They haven't looked in sync defensively, especially. They're fielding 951 out here. They've got 7 errors. Mississippi State hasn't made an error yet in Omaha, Kendall.
Yeah, the one interesting thing to me, too, is it's a little scary for Mississippi State going into this series, looking at Vanderbilt and going, you know what, like, Vandy hasn't played very well. So you almost kind of had this idea or feeling that, like, hey, they might be due to actually play really well in this finals. And I think you and I were talking about yesterday, like, it would be kind of crazy if Vanderbilt's played bad all along. They get a little bit of help to get into the CBS Championship Series, and then all of a sudden they play like the team that they've been at times this season, and play excellent. It's worth noting. I was kind of looking back. The last time Jack Leiter faced Mississippi State, he allowed 4 runs on 6 hits. It only lasted 5 innings. He threw 96 pitches in 5 innings. So Mississippi State beat him, and they kind of showed that formula of how to beat him in that game.
That was also kind of before, he hit that little kind of not wall, but before they rested him for a week. I think was shortly after that, and he came back, I think, pretty strong from that. But you're right. I mean, if you can drive up Leiter's pitch count early, he's not the most efficient guy. Now he pitched the complete game last week, 124 pitches, and showed that he's got stamina. But I think that's your best approach, is to find a way to drive up that pitch count. But I mean, he misses so many bats with that riding life on the fastball, and then you'll mix in, curveball and the slider. It's easy to say we're going to run up his pitch count, but it's not always easy to make contact with that thing.
No, you're right. And the other big key for this game too is we talk about Christian McLeod needing to step up, Aaron. I mean, how about somebody needing to step up out of the bullpen? I mean, if you look at Landon Sims, I mean, I guess if you're Chris Lemonis and let's say the game's tied in the ninth, I mean, do you go to Landon Sims and risk, not being able to have him tomorrow? I think he's one of those guys, like, his stuff has still been good, but it's certainly just a little bit of a tick down from what it was early in the CBS. So Chris Lemonis and how he uses Landon tonight is going to be really interesting to me as well.
Yeah, and he was 91 to 93 the other day, it was still, exploding through the zone. He's got that hop. He's got that, the slider was awesome, I thought, the other day. I mean, it was really, really good. But it wasn't 94, 96, which is what he is at his peak. And so clearly there are signs of fatigue. I mean, the previous outing, there were some 88, 89 fastballs from Sims. So, how does he bounce back on 1 day of rest after working 2 2/3 on Saturday? I do think you bring him in the ninth if you have the lead. But short of that, I think they're going to try to win this game with some other guys. And, I think the key for Mississippi State, if they're going to win this series, is they've got a lot of pitching depth. Remember that the game against Virginia where McLeod started and got knocked out early, they kind of had to piece it together with a bunch of different guys.
Yeah.
And they're going to need some heroes out of that group, whether it's, I don't know, maybe it'll be Parker Stinnett. Maybe it'll be, Chase Patrick. I mean, somebody like that. Stone Simmons. I mean, one of these kind of bullpen guys, you're going to probably have to ride several of those guys in the second game of the series because you don't have Will Bednar available until Wednesday at the earliest, if he goes at all. So, I mean, they're going to have to stitch together tomorrow. And really, like you said, they just need a deep outing from McLeod today.
Yeah, and the segue to the offense for Mississippi State, I think if you're the Dogs, so offensively, you can't continue to rely on just having a couple of good innings at the end of the game. If you're gonna beat a team like Vanderbilt with that kind of talent, like, you're gonna need to be more consistent. I get it, like, they've been clutch, they've been kind of those cardiac dogs in this World Series, but at some point, if you're only scoring in a couple innings at the end of the game, that catches up with you.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So I do like that you're picking State. You're putting yourself out there. You're going to make yourself a folk
It's
hero.
just a gut feel. It's just a gut feel. I feel like Vandy's kind of unfairly the villain here. I think I think it's gonna be crazy tonight, and I think Mississippi State's going to surprise some people because I think State knows that everybody just kind of. And I know I'm not saying you assume, but I'm saying a lot of fans assume that, like, with Leiter on the mound, like, oh, they have no shot. And I think Mississippi State proves a lot of people wrong tonight.
Yeah, they definitely have a shot. I'm picking Vandy because, I mean, it just feels foolish to bet against Leiter, and I'll be just very interested to see how Vanderbilt comes out. I mean, maybe they're one of those teams now that, because they've become unfairly this villain, maybe that just galvanizes them. Maybe it focuses them.
It kind of dials them in.
Yeah, maybe they have that edge that maybe they've been missing a little bit. We'll see, or maybe the kind of the weight of the whole thing works the other way and works against them, because I mean it's been hard for those guys, and they're getting worn out. I mean, we're getting worn out on social media about all this stuff. You can imagine poor Vanderbilt. They didn't do anything wrong. I mean, it's complete BS that they're having to deal with all this nonsense on the internet. Just turn off your phones, turn off your computers.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that coaches at Vandy and whatnot have gotten bad phone calls and stuff like that. People just need to, at least when it comes to Vanderbilt, need to turn the page. There's nothing sinister going on with freaking Vanderbilt. Let's play ball, and I can't wait to see what happens tonight.
The conspiracy theory stuff. It's like, I kind of wrote this in my column, but Vanderbilt has become the New England Patriots, and Tim Corbin is Bill Belichick in our game. Like, everybody assumes, that they're all some arch villains and they have their hands, on the scales behind the scenes. And it's like, he's not, Emperor Palpatine, guys. He's just a baseball coach. He's a really good baseball coach. Chill out. Vanderbilt's a great program. He's as well respected as any coach in the country. He's not behind the scenes demanding people be tested. He doesn't have that kind of power.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Corbin is a tough guy on his players, but I don't think he has that kind of power at the NCAA.
So there it is. We said we weren't going to talk about it, and we talked about it a little bit anyway. That's what we got from Omaha. Looking forward to the finals here starting tonight, 6 Central, I believe, Kendall.
Yeah, 6 Central, 6:07 p.m. first pitch.
Excellent. So we will see you from the ballpark tonight. Enjoy the games, everybody. Thanks for watching.